Hello and welcome back to another on the Wrestling and to another edition of Raw Out of 10. On the heels of a Saturday night main event that saw the return of Big Bronson Reed in alignment with Seth Rollins, Bron Breakker and Paul Heyman, Raw hit the airwaves jam-packed as the show focused towards the build to Money in the Bank. So yeah, there was a lot going on in this week's show, and we started things off with Seth Rollins and the rest of the gang who made their way to the show. The growing faction of as of yet unnamed. Heyman put over Breakker and Reed as only he can before handing over the microphone to the Visionary. Rollins cut a solid heel promo in which he lashed out at the fans before vowing to win Money in the Bank. Something that he says he's more powerful than the world title because he's a revolutionary. Cue the theme song. That worked. And that Heyman put over why the group is more unstoppable, with Reed joining Breakker as a backup for Rollins, who laid the foundations for his night, as he will complete a Money in the Bank qualifying match later in the night and take one step towards the berth in the men's match on June 7th. Solid but unspectacular, but definitely effective. Our first match was Penta v Dragon Lee versus Chad Gable in a qualifier, and it's Penta who will be heading to the pay-per-view. And yeah, Gable survived a devastating pole driver and shined as usual as the best wrestler in the ring, but it was immensely talented. Lee showed out with a dive that caused Pat McAfee to drop an expletive, and Penta earned the win after Vinkigo interfered, repaying Gunther a cheap shot. A good fast-paced match, and definitely led the way to Gunther v Vikingo. What a great match it's going to be, and I think yeah, probably the right winner. 7 out of 10. We then got Tozawa taking on Rusev, but before that, Liv Morgan returned, walking in on Roxanne Perez, offering Dominic Mysterio chicken nuggets and a shoulder rub. She vowed to address that, but before convincing Adam Pearce to give her an opportunity in the Money in the Bank qualifying match. Interesting, but Rusev returned to the ring for the match, and it was obviously quick as you might expect. Tozawa fell to a match kick, and the accolade allowed Rusev to get the easy win, but he continued his assault until Sheamus made the save and he came out. So yeah, that's going to be an interesting feud. League of Nations reunited, and yeah, very intrigued to see where that all goes, and I think yeah, that could be an interesting feud. The New Day then defended the titles against Creed Brothers and War Raiders in the second freeway of the evening. The two heel teams formed an alliance, opting to work over the War Raiders and take the former chance out of the equation, leading to a sustained heat spot as they beat down and brutalised Eric. A hot attack to Ivar spoke to babyface comeback that saw the big men toss his opponents around the square circle. As the action broke down, the champions did as they have done throughout this heel one, winning the match by seizing an opening. The match was perfectly fine and featured some hard work from the 6 involved, but the crowd's lack of investment is indicative of the creative team's need to focus on stories and character developments that extends beyond a few teams fighting for the goals. So yeah, I'm going to give it a 5 out of 10 for that reason. Before the World Heavyweight Champion Jey Uso could address his Money in the Bank match with Cody Rhodes against Cena and Paul, Gunther interrupted and addressed their upcoming title match on June 9th. The ring general calmly and smugly vowed to take his title back from Uso and reiterated that he fights for the people who fought for him. It was also more of the same that we would have seen as those two, which should be expected given their 10-week prep that went into their WrestleMania match. It's highly unlikely that Uso loses the big money match, with presumably a showdown with Rollins coming. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how Gunther is protected, because yeah, of course he's a very legitimate contender. Before we got Kairi Sane versus Liv Morgan. This was a product of a backstage confrontation where Liv Morgan squared off with Kairi. In a competitive match, saw Morgan dominate through the break and appear to have victory in hand at one point. Later in the match though, Sane set out for the insane elbow, only for Roxanne to come from out of nowhere and shove the big face from the top rope. An immediate argument with Raquel Rodriguez at ringside distracted Morgan, allowing Sane to stack her up and steal the win. This look on Morgan's face and her displeasure for Perez's interaction with Mysterio earlier in the night suggests there's a blow coming up sooner rather than later. In terms of giving Perez something significant to do, the main roster, while providing fans with a fresh feud, it worked. Finally, Sane earned a win she needed after the last week's loss, although the creative team will have to work hard to remind fans of why Sane is a special talent, because right now they're struggling to invest and connect. So yeah, for that reason, I'm probably going to give it a 5 out of 10. Women's IC champ Lyra Valkyria took the squared circle to address her upcoming rematch against Becky Lynch at Money in the Bank. She denounced the idea that a man can just request and receive a title match without actually earning one, but that's right out of Lynch's playbook. The former women's champ interrupted and verbal back and forth exchange ensued, during which a challenge was laid down. If Lynch loses to Valkyria, she will never challenge for the IC title again. If the champ loses, though, she must graciously raise Lynch's hands in victory. The promo, much like Uso and Gunther's earlier in the show, achieved nothing new and didn't hype up a future match. The difference is it at least introduced a stipulation to the equation, which should help the rematch be more interesting than the first encounter. Before we got another Money in the Bank qualifier, Sami Zayn, Finn Balor and Seth Rollins taking place in this one, and it saw Seth Rollins outlast his opponent. And later in the match, Zayn appeared to have the victory in hand when Bronson Reed and Bron Breakker made their presence felt. They leveled Zayn the outside, leaving Rollins to benefit from a misguided attempt at interference by Dom by delivering a stomp on the steel chair. The victorious Rollins demanded his henchmen beat down Zayn and Uso, who had come to his friend age only for CM Punk's music to play, and that led to an attack from Rollins from behind, leaving him with a go to sleep and standing tall to close the show. Crowd-pleasing main event, coupled with Punk getting a measure of revenge, fueling his vendetta, was a very effective way to end the show. So 7 out of 10. And overall, Raw this week gets 5 out of 10 from me. I thought while the show ended off quite strong, and I really enjoyed the Heyman stuff. I think there was quite a few stuff on the show, for example, like the tag team division, that just isn't quite clicking at the moment. So for that reason, I'm going to give it a 5 out of 10. But I thought there was some decent
that's it for this video. Thanks very much for watching. Remember to like, share, subscribe, follow us on our socials, link in the description below for daily wrestling news, meme and content. Subscribe to our other channels on screen right now, that'd be greatly appreciated. Thanks very much for watching. Peace out.